Welcome back. It's great to be back at ZEST. This is my second ZEST in 2 years. And it's been great to hear a lot of international voices and to continue to see Malta punching above its weight. We don't think of Malta as a small place. When Ariadne Capital, my firm, which we'd been in London for 17 years, when we acquired a business down in Malta last year, it wasn't to come to a wonderful, beautiful but small country. We really see Malta as the natural capital of the greater Mediterranean ecosystem. And that was Ernst & Young, you may remember, last April did that great research which said that the greater Mediterranean ecosystem is the second largest GDP zone in the world after the US. So we really see Malta as playing a natural leadership role there, and that's what's exciting to us about being here. Now, I've been asked to talk about the role of the entrepreneur, which is, in so many respects, a natural thing for me to talk about. And I've titled my short presentation, How Entrepreneur Country Went Global. Entrepreneur Country is one of the businesses that we operate out of Malta. You may know that we broadcast Entrepreneur Country TV, ECTV, from Malta. Every Monday morning at 9 a.m., we're broadcasting. Ashley Galea on my team is our video lead at Entrepreneur Country. And so you may get some of our broadcasts talking about entrepreneurs changing the world. Now, I wrote a little bit about Entrepreneur Country, and what we mean by that is not just our business. Entrepreneur Country helps the startups. It helps startups achieve product market fit. We have a test piloting app whereby you can test with some of the 312,000 citizens of Entrepreneur Country whether or not they would use your application. But we also have a value proposition to the large Goliaths. We call them the large companies that are trying to figure out their digital future and know somewhere that the entrepreneurs have an edge, something that they need to know. So Entrepreneur Country works between the Davids and the Goliaths, but probably most importantly, as we'll talk about in a second, we're helping citizens. We're helping the average individual play into this huge digital opportunity, which is much more than just about building businesses or doing digital technology, but how society is being reshaped. And so Entrepreneur Country, the best way to think of Entrepreneur Country is a kind of over-the-top solution. If the world as it is kind of falling apart and it feels like the social contract is shattered some days, then come with us to Entrepreneur Country, where entrepreneurs go to every day to build that new world. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story, and I want you to focus on the face of that little guy there as I'm telling this story, because I have to admit that that's my face too. And for those of you in the room, I dare say that that might be the way that you feel as you're building your businesses. Now, I grew up in a place called Sacramento, California, up until I went to high school. And Sacramento is the capital of California, and it has really hot summers. Really hot, like Malta hot, like 40 degrees Celsius hot, which is probably why I feel so comfortable in Malta, is because I'm used to that kind of heat. And I played a lot of sports. I played a lot of volleyball and basketball, and when I was age 16, I was the captain of my basketball team in Northern California. We ended up winning the state championship, but here's the story I want to tell you. I actually had one game which was a really bad game. And as the captain of the team, it's your job to make sure your team doesn't have a bad game. My coach, believe it or not, was Maltese. His name was Mark Sultana. We called him Salty for short, but he was very tall. He was 6'5", and I came away thinking that all Maltese were probably 6'5" or something like that, which is not exactly the case. But the point is that he was a great coach. But this one particularly bad game, I don't know how we got into such a slump, but we, at halftime, were losing 48-17. And for those of you who know anything about basketball, that is really hard to come back from. And as I kind of slouched off the court, trying to avoid Mark Sultana, my coach's eyes, he caught my eyes and he came right over to me and he looked at me and he said, "Julie, when are you going to decide that you want to win this game?" Turned around, walked away. I said, "Yeah, right," as if, you know, it just comes down to me wanting to win and that's it. And I walked off to the locker room. And I was really upset because I thought, how dare he assume that I have the power to just decide that I want to win the basketball game. And I kind of walked into the locker room and I was pretty rude to everybody and I sat in a corner and I just flipped the switch. I said, okay, right, there's nothing else I can do. I obviously can't improve my basketball game between first half, second half. but we talked as a team and we said we were playing a crap game of basketball, and we said we're better than this. And we said, you know what? We went out to play a game of basketball first half. We didn't decide to win. We said, we're going out there now and we're going to win. The second half, you can imagine, was different. We came out, we tipped the ball. One of my best girlfriends, Angelina, took it, made the first point, and we came back. We were fighting, and it ended up 92-92 with 1 minute left. And Angie, again, threw the winning basket, and we counted down 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The crowd went crazy. People had been coming in from all over the campus to the gymnasium because they heard that the girls' basketball team was actually putting on a really good show, and they didn't want to miss it. And the important thing is I just stood there stunned as I watched us with a 94-92 lead after having had just an unbelievably bad first half. I realized something that which has stayed with me for 35 years. I was the same player in the second half of the game as in the first half. We were the same team. The only thing that we had decided was that we were playing to win. We literally flipped the switch. And we said, you know what? We're here to win. We're not here to play basketball. We're here to win. And we did. And it stayed with me for 35 years because it was a very simple story, and it could have been different. We could have been, whatever. But I share with you today because in the backing of entrepreneurs that I have, probably thousands of entrepreneurs over the past 20 years that I've been doing what I'm doing, and now really lucky to be doing it from Malta as well as London. The first thing that you notice about an entrepreneur when you meet them is this self-belief, this belief that they are going to win. We've worked with Nicholas Sandstrom, the founder of Skype, with Richard Duval, the first peer-to-peer lending company in the world, with Alistair Lukes of Monetize when he set it up, 2 people, which later became a billion-pound company. And the same thing was this sense of, I'm going to be successful. And if you'd like to come along with me, I really want your help. I'm going to listen to you, but I intend to be successful. Completely different than a sense of entitlement, which can be nauseating, but this belief in one's ability to create and change the world. And that is what that little guy is all about. That little guy decides that he is going to change the world when he goes to Entrepreneur Country, AKA the future, every day. And that's why he's so important. He's so important because he actually sees what's inevitable. He sees things. Entrepreneurs just see things. They have a feel for new consumer behaviors. Something has happened to them. They have a chip on their shoulder or something, and they advance the future because they go to the future every day, and they pull it into the present with their teams around them actually, and the products and services that they build. They pull it into the future. The real reason, though, ladies and gentlemen, why they're so important is that second bullet. It's because they're willing to live a not normal life. And not everybody is up for that. A lot of people misunderstand what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I went to business school at a really fine institution with a lot of people who are, I'm sure, heaps smarter than me, but who would never, ever, ever put themselves in the line of fire like I and others do. Being an entrepreneur is not about being smart. It's about simply not giving up when other people do. One of my best friends, and I'm fortunate to have her as a shareholder, is Candace Johnson, who frequently comes to Malta. And she is the founder of many businesses, satellite businesses, SES Astra, if you've heard of the global satellite firm. And she has a great saying. She says, never give up, never accept no, and never ever go away, even when they want you to. So, we say at Ariadne Capital, and you'll hear us say this like a broken record until we get the entire island and greater Mediterranean ecosystem singing off the same hymn sheet. Society works best when it's organized around the entrepreneur. And it is in the moments when everybody can kind of accept that society isn't working, and I think we're getting there pretty quickly, that we have an opportunity to redesign society. We call our over-the-top solution Entrepreneur Country. We invite the world to come every day with us. We write books. We have Entrepreneur Country TV. We're doing test piloting. We're working with large companies. We come to entrepreneur conferences like this to basically say, we've issued an invitation. Come help us build the future between entrepreneurs, startups, Goliaths, large corporations, and citizens who are intent on doing that. Because all of society benefits benefits from those abnormal lives that entrepreneurs tend to build. This is one of my favorite quotes because it's so true. It's so hidden. Nobody knows what people go through when they're trying to take the lead in the new introduction of a new order of things. This is the most difficult thing, and yet one of probably the smartest people in the history of man took the time to pen that quote to basically call time on the process of introducing new things to the world. So the role of the venture capitalists, those of us who are here, the financiers of entrepreneurship, our role is to listen. Our role is to be here for the entrepreneurs. It's not follow the money, it's follow the entrepreneur. Capital follows the idea. Queen Isabella may have been a very smart woman, but her smartness was in putting Christopher Columbus on a retainer so that when he found the new world, that she had a piece of the upside. But Christopher Columbus was the one who sailed across, not knowing what he would find. I'm sure he was threatened and attacked and had all sorts of moments of not knowing what that new world would be. So capital follows ideas. It always has, it always will. Entrepreneurs have not always been called entrepreneurs. They've been called everything else, from creators and artists and industrialists and so forth. But that creative genius which brings the future to the present has been there throughout history. And it's the money people whose job it is to find them. So when you are in your moments of whatever, quietness, solitude, needing the money, etc., remember your job is to bring the opportunity, is to design and to define and to communicate the future, what you know, what will be inevitable. And you have to believe that the money will find you. Now, for those of you who've heard me speak before, you know that this woman is a very important influence on our thinking at Ariadne Capital. Our investment strategy is ecosystem economics, and I encourage you to check her out if you haven't, because the beautiful thing about Carlota Perez is she basically did a whole lot of works that we don't have to. We can just simply understand that the same thing happens every 60 to 80 years. History goes through cycles of basically a disruptive technology, to derivative technologies, to a financial crisis, to the second half of the cycle where, as I basically use a shorthand version of it, the empire strikes back. We're in that second half of the cycle where it is really important how large companies, government, society embeds these derivative technologies in our life. And it is in that tripod between startups and corporates and active citizens that this makes sense. But the important thing, and I heard some of us were talking out there over lunch, that it gets rather boring, if not annoying, that Palo Alto markets itself so well, and that you feel you have to go to the valley to somehow get the wisdom from Mount Sinai to understand how to run your business. And as a girl from the valley and from California, let me tell you, it's marketing. The first version of the future that Google, Facebook, Apple, and Amazon, they understand that design of the future, and they are taking advantage, and you'd be forgiven for believing that maybe they are just going to dominate the future. But they're just simply taking the digital playbook and applying it super well to the opportunities they have in the market. Secondly, are those baby brother companies that are also taking in rounds of funding, billions at tens of billions and so forth. But those 25 companies or even 50 companies in California don't mask the big opportunity, which is that 99% of the universe is not in the first and second versions of the future. 99% of the universe is not in Palo Alto or California. And that's the big opportunity, is to get David and Goliath to dance. To help large companies become platforms, not to create platform companies with venture capital backing from scratch and to recreate the taxi industry with 50 billion, but to create new applications for taxis and airplanes and cars, and to fix the transportation ecosystem problems with entrepreneurs working with the established companies in society with the insight of smart citizens who are going to share their observations and test piloting. Now, when I say Europe thinks like an eldest child, I'm not, by the way, but I've been here for 30 years, and I really believe this. It's not that we don't have amazing disruptive entrepreneurs who change the world. We do, and I've worked with many of them. But I think that this is a time that Europe can win because we can play to our strength. What is that strength? If you're an eldest child, you want to enable and extend the existing estate. You don't want to rip up the family winery and start all over and rebuild it and start fresh. You actually say, what we've got is good. Let's enable it. Let's extend it to the next generation. That's the way an eldest child thinks. The baby of the family says, hey, let's just throw it all over and start all over, tell a big story, raise 50 billion. It's so much more fun to take out a clean sheet of paper. That period of time is in the first half of the Carlota Perez cycle. We're in the second half of the Carlota Perez cycle. The good news is, for the entrepreneurs and the venture capitalists and the corporate innovation people in the audience, we are at a time in that 60 to 80-year cycle that Europe can win. If we interpret the digital playbook for ourselves and not just keep on thinking we need to go to Palo Alto. So every entrepreneur out there, just think of them like a digital car. They understand something that they've created a product and application with. They're looking for a highway. They're looking for a way to acquire customers. And those highways are out there. We've got publishing companies, we've got banks, we've got transportation companies that should be embracing and making friends with entrepreneurs so that we can transform that 99% of the universe and to create a better place. Now, really quickly, and I'm going to conclude on this, although I'm not finished with all my slides. Anybody who'd like a copy of my slides, you can find them very easily on the web, SlideShare, send me an email, whatever. This David and Goliath model is important because it shows that we can either, as entrepreneurs, create strategic value for the large companies that we engage with, or if the large companies underestimate and ignore the startups, then some of those startups will get across to creating network effects and financial value. So my time is up. I'm being asked to conclude. I want to thank you so much. If you want to grab me, I'll be here for a little bit more time. I'm happy to share my slides. We're super excited to be in Malta, Ariadne Capital and Entrepreneur Country, and we look forward to working with you all. Thank you very much.